Oh, that burger was so good.
Yeah, well, the reality is this was a extremely soft target. People are feeling very exposed at the airport. Our military is exposed. Our diplomats. I'm currently at the State Department right now, and this is the nightmare scenario that they've been fearing for a long time. Now, one of the big problems here is that, and President Biden communicated this earlier in the week. He did not want to go past this August 31st deadline because he cited this threat from ISIS. He had to do serious pushback against some of our closest allies, the British, the French, the Germans, and their allies. They were pressing the United States to continue this. What Biden said on Tuesday was, the longer we sit around, the longer that we're sitting ducks over here. And unfortunately, that has been realized by this attack today.
Well, to your point about the international community, what reaction have you already heard? What reaction are you expecting?
I mean, this is being condemned universally around the world by leading nations. We should only expect that to continue. Now, I think that this will fortify the argument that the Biden administration was making, that they need to get out sooner rather than later, given these threats.
Pardon me.
Of course, there is opposition. There's opposition in the United States Congress. Some Republicans have said this is a push harder outside the perimeter.
I mean, not. You didn't hear the cottage cheese I got out.
The reality is this is a extremely dangerous environment, and it doesn't look like the administration is going to continue.
I'm not exactly full.
But the idea that this will be beginning an even broader and longer stay when the evacuation happens.
Do we expect to see any changes in the security procedures around the airport?
Well, that's unclear. I think that you are going to see perhaps even more coordination. I think that they, I would imagine, that there are a number of different things that they are going to try and put in place, given the resources to diminish the threat now that they see sort of first opening salvo by ISIS-K. But that's going to really depend on the military's calculations and its decisions to proceed forward.
You've seen the statement.
I don't know. If I were, like, I don't know. You'd almost think they didn't want me watching the Kabul updates anymore. One hour call. Evacuation to Jamestown and Sonora due to fire.
Evacuation in Jamestown and Sonora. Our news streaming right now on CBS Sacramento. The fire burning in two areas. The first is near Highway 108 and Gulf Links Road in Jamestown and Tuolumne County. It's also burning to the north there near Stockton Road. About 45 acres burned in all. An alert wildfire camera from the west side of Sonora pointed south has picked up some intense flames through this dry brush. We've also seen several drops of fire retardant. Now I'm trying to zoom in here to give you a better idea of exactly where these evacuation orders are.
Yeah, we can go ahead and take a look at these and some road closures in that area as well, making things a little bit more complicated for folks trying to leave. The first area is in Jamestown. An evacuation order is in place near Highway 108 in the area of Alley Drive, Circle Drive, and also Golden Dove Lane, Hidden Drive, Gulf Links Road, North Drive, Crooked Lane, Silver Pine
Looks like California, but I'm not sure.
and Highway 108 is closed right right in that vicinity, so you'll want to be prepared for some backdoor traffic. Then also, under evacuation orders right now, just to the northeast, in the area of Sonora, west of Stockton Road, and also to the west of South
Looks like some fires are near some populated
This
areas.
includes all roads in between, also includes all downtown hotels on Stockton and South Washington. So sort of that triangle area right in between South Washington and South Stockton. And then we also
Could be
have
Washington.
evacuation advisories in place just to the west of that area. In the area of Panorama Road,
State.
Ray Trail, Gibbs Drive, Jamestown Road, and
Ouch.
Racetrack Road. So you're gonna see that open space indicated right in this, you're circling that right stop where we believe the fire was burning.
So Jamestown is down here, this is the area where it's burning, and then it looks like we also have some burning over here, so that's where those evacuations are. Apologies for the crazy maps, we're kind of doing some of this on the fly here. You did see those flames just a short time ago, and I just want to give you an image of what it has looked like in just the past 15 minutes from the Western Sonora camera here. And you can see we were seeing some intense flame earlier.
I'll look and see where
right
Sonora
now,
is.
the, a whole lot of smoke that they've been getting
It's just that
on
they're
the
showing-
yesterday, the state camera in Sonora was actually sworn around, facing north, catching flames on a fire in Calaveras County. The latest on that fire in just a few minutes.
Excuse me. Oh god, I dropped a huge piece of burger. California. Oh, it's the county seat of Tulum County, California. They said it was a Washington fire, but Sonora is in the county seat of the fire that was called, that I was trying to watch, but I went and got dinner. Oh, the city population is 4610. So it's not a highly populated area. And then Jamestown.
Biden says the U.S. might stay longer than that August 31st deadline. Was the Afghan refugee who gave birth after U.S. troops helped get her out.
Jamestown is a census-designated place in California.
Devastating scenes and heartbreaking
Population 3433.
we're on the ground. And in the Northeast, Texas,
3107.
power tonight after tropical storm Irene. And the rental rush. Americans looking for a place to live now finding
Tuolumne County.
choices as they head back to work.
A county in California. Why did they say it was a Washington fire?
Good evening, various news tonight that officials hope will get
Ooh.
cautious and reluctant
Population 54,000.
to COVID vaccination centers. Pfizer's saying ready full FDA
The county seat and only incorporated city is Sonora.
Americans have been waiting for
It's a micropolitan statistical area.
roll up their sleeves. But the news
The
is
county is in the Sierra Nevada region.
institutions that are moving to
So why do they call it the Washington fire?
been fully vaccinated.
They're trying to screw me up?
Playing catch up with a virus that infected 180,000 people just this past weekend and took almost 1,200 lives. Miguel Alvin here has details.
Expected, but still historic. Today's
I'm taking this personally.
for people 16 and older marks another major milestone in the pandemic, coming 97 days after the
The
FDA
wildfire,
initial review
the Washington fire erupts in Jamestown Thursday.
emergency
immunization. The new announcement expected to move the needle on future vaccinations.
I don't know why they call it a Washington fire.
Go get your shot.
Is there a Washington, California?
Vaccination is free, it's easy, it's safe, and it's effective.
Immediately following FDA approval, a wave of public, private, and government employers announced they will now require.
They called it the Washington fire. Here it's
Among them,
the Washington fire.
1.4 billion active duty troops,
Uh-huh.
with many
Oh.
more expected to follow
Hold on.
suit.
I'm not gonna be able to see it.
New York City's Department of Education says all 148,000
Washington fire.
educators and staff will need to be
I'm trying here.
vaccinated by the end of next month.
Now we're already seeing a slew of organizations starting to
Washington fire, Tulum County.
It's going to be a good trend.
With the University of Virginia disenrolling hundreds of students who failed to get vaccinated, the
Well, I don't know why they call it a
will strengthen legal standing and perhaps
Washington fire if it's in California.
I hope and pray that today goes down in American history as a real turning point in the COVID pandemic.
still
Biden is in the Situation Room.
many are not convinced.
As president, it says I feel like it's so new and it just was approved today, so I'm still iffy on it.
Hoping to build confidence, the FDA followed some 20,000 Pfizer vaccine recipients, reviewing data for at least 6 months. There were some common side effects.
I don't know why they call it a Washington fire. I'll look and see if there's a Washington,
The
California.
FDA review process taking less than half the normal amount of time.
They can go through all the information that was posted summarizing what FDA did. You'll see there were no corners cut.
Tonight, full approval for those who may not be fully confident. Okay, well, it's obviously been a big day for
Oh, Washington is a census-designated place in California. Nevada County, California.
There are experts believe it'll be approved, but that's likely weeks away. Johnson & Johnson
Oh, 200 people.
to apply for approval. We should also
So they're calling it the Washington fire even though they're evacuating Sonora and Jamestown apparently, which are more highly populated. So maybe they're just trying to stump me, which I don't usually think when I watch the news anymore.
You recall that the speed was one of the things that worried some people who were cautious and hesitant. They thought this process is moving way too fast. What do you say to those folks now? Think about for most people.
So I know which one. But Washington D.C. they, you know, on I think it's ABC News or maybe NBC, when they're not having an active news program full screen, sometimes they show the White House. And the White House had a smoke in the air. So some of this smoke somewhere, because there are Minnesota fires. Amy Klobuchar was talking about them today. It's called the Greenwood Fire, I guess is the big one. It's in northeastern Minnesota, and some of the fires are in Canada just over the border. So maybe some of the smoke from those fires are reaching the northeast. I don't know. I don't know why Washington, D.C. is polluted with smoke. Because they're having terrible smoke pollution problems in the southwest. And some of the smoke is moving east, but to hit the northeast is pretty much of a stretch. So I don't know. There could be fires in other states that don't come up on a Google search under wildfires, because Minnesota didn't, and I didn't notice that there was a Minnesota fire from my searches and stuff until Amy Klobuchar mentioned it. The Greenwood Fire in Minnesota. So in a previous video, I assumed the Washington fire was Washington State, but it's not. It's called the Tulum fire. Tolumme, Tulum. But I don't have my glasses, so It could be Tulum MN instead of MM. Anyway. But I'm not watching updates on Kabul. If this news shifting is about me, it's because they didn't like me mentioning the Italian military early reports at the Abbey Gate. U.S. military went inside and left the Italian military by the Abbey Gate. My understanding was the explosion was by the gate, which hinted to me that the U.S. military may have been tipped off and went inside and left the Italian military at the gate, which would imply Italian military were killed. So maybe they have somebody trying to propagandize to make the United States look good, but trying to be consistent with earlier reports. Probably not just because of me, because there are people like me who sit and watch news reports. So, that's that. Boy, am I reluctant to put this food away. It is good. So I'll dig into the cottage cheese for a few minutes. See if that fills me up. I had 2 cans of chicken noodle soup for lunch. About an hour apart. So I've been eating big meals. Oh, that's pretty good. But I can't risk Gary Melber anymore. I was triggered once watching maybe 6 weeks ago. And then I was triggered a second time on probably a different broadcast of Gary Melber, and I was triggered again, so I avoid Gary Melber. He uses words or phrases or it's something that triggers me. I had heard as a survivor before I met Paul that TV has triggers, you know, like the CBS Eye. I was never triggered by that. I remember being triggered by anything. But Ari Melber did it. And I don't think I have the constitution to withstand triggers, so I don't risk it. Oh boy. I guess a burger patty and a half isn't that huge of a meal. Oh, there we go.
I found the goat of taking football on the road. Dish Outdoors. Watch the biggest games live on ESPN. No Wi-Fi needed.
Tonight, a new tropical storm has just been named, expected to become a powerful hurricane headed toward the Gulf. So Rob Marciano is back tonight. Hey, Rob.
Hi, David. And strong confidence now that this will be a strong hurricane as it approaches the U.S. Right now, it's about 100 miles west of Jamaica.
Ida.
Warnings are posted for western Cuba.
Tropical storm Ida. Heading at this moment toward New Orleans, but it's pretty far away. Sunday afternoon, they're expecting a landfall in New Orleans on the current path. They say it'll be a strong hurricane by the time it gets there. My personal experience in New Orleans and St. Charles Parish, Louisiana, kind of a suburb community of New Orleans, was not good. I wondered if God destroyed Miami with Hurricane Andrew because of my experiences there, and we didn't live there anymore. Dumb fuck, what's his name, wanted to move back to Miami after the fucking hurricane. To take care of his brother Carl, even though Carl was still living in an intact home. We would have ended up living in the, those military tents. They had tent communities set up for people whose homes didn't make it in Hurricane Andrew in the early 90s. And I noticed that. I thought maybe God had destroyed Miami with Hurricane Andrew. Because of me. Of course, I never said that to Richard Hanning Jr., but... And just as we were moving out of Bakersfield, California, they had a terrible respiratory outbreak. They had gooey things falling from the sky and attaching to light poles and stuff. My son Rich was riding his bike and grabbed a gooey thing and ended up with a bad case of diarrhea. I think we went to Kaiser Permanente facility, or I think it was the Kaiser Permanente facility in Bakersfield that we went to when we had illness. I think that's what it was. But I read about it on the news after we moved to New Orleans. And that area was overwhelmed by respiratory distress. Right after we left. The gooey things were just in the first couple of days, I think. And then it was probably something else. Maybe, I don't know. Something else in the air, maybe. But Katrina happened not too long after we moved from New Orleans to Fond du Lac. But it never occurred to me that God was destroying New Orleans because of me and Rich's experiences there. But I did experience Destrehan, which was also St. Charles Parish, and Destrehan High were actually evil. Destrehan High School was actually evil. But it never occurred to me that Katrina was kind of like a disaster like Andrew and the gooey stuff in Bakersfield. But I have to consider it now. Maybe the Pentagon didn't know our whereabouts exactly at all times. Or something. We moved. Let me think. We moved in 1990 from Miami to Stanton, Virginia. And I don't think Andrew was until 1993. So it wasn't right after. I'll look up Hurricane Andrew. – 1992, and we had moved in 90. But I have to think, because I'm trying to think of where we lived when Richard said, Laura, we need to move back to Miami and help my brother. I can tell he needs my help. Well, Carl was his little brother, but Carl had treated him like shit in Miami. Didn't invite us. Had friends that we weren't among their friends. We weren't good enough. I told Richard he was fucking crazy. But I'm not sure we lived in Scranton when he decided we had to move. He may have. He wasn't taking me and Boo Boo to no military tent life. Out in the open in the heat with mosquitoes and all the miseries they suffered. Our mobile home had been destroyed. Richard Haney Jr. didn't have a job in Miami. And housing was scarce because the displaced people were grabbing it up. So that sounds like a Pentagon decision rather than Richard Haney Jr. wanting to help Carl. Carl had an intact house. He had some roof damage, but I don't think his roof was leaking. And he lied to the insurance people who were rebuilding the parts of the house that had been damaged so that he could get better equipment, better stuff. I guess he got a new air conditioning system and some reinforced roofing and stuff, but he admitted that he lied about it. He admitted it to me and I thought, that's not very ethical. But they did stuff like that very casually. And maybe a lot of people do. But I don't do stuff like that. But again, they had tent communities for people like us who lived in a mobile home that was completely destroyed. Wendy Duda took some pictures, and all that was left of our mobile home was the slat it was on, spray painted L16. That was our unit number, our lot number. Just the cement. That's all that was left. There was some appliance in the front, but I didn't recognize it. I don't think it was ours. So, you know. And what are we gonna do? He's got no job, and apartments up there. 2 bedrooms are going for $800 a month on Flagler and 8th Street, which is not where I wanted to live. And he didn't have a friggin' job in Miami. How was he gonna get one? I just told him a flat no. In fact, I told him he was nuts. I was pretty offended that he considered it. So, I thought Andrew was 93, but we should have been in the Scranton area that whole time. No. Stanton was 90 and part of 91, and then Scranton was part of 91, 92, 93, maybe a little longer. Anyway, he thought I was stupid enough to let him play fixer to a brother who disdained him, and then we would have ended up in a tent facility. Or not. We may not have qualified because we didn't have the L16 anymore. We sold it to 3 people. So we wouldn't have qualified from having a trailer there because we didn't own it. We sold it before we left Miami. So we may not even have a tent facility. And then who in his family's going to take us in? They wouldn't even take Boo Boo for a weekend. Which I thought would be a good thing for grandparents to do. They lived in Lehigh Acres, Florida, near Fort Myers, but they never did. They paid attention to Billy's kids and Carl's kids, and no attention whatsoever to my child. So either they wouldn't have taken us in, or they would have taken us in just to start a program of treating us like shit again. The only thing that gave us stock in the family was moving so far away. And the more we moved, the more stock we had, because all of a sudden, we miss you and all this. They treated us like total crap in Miami. Total and complete crap. And I had had the fantasy that when I married Richard Hanning Jr., I'd get a family. You know, an extended family, because I didn't have one. My mother-in-law despised me. After Richard introduced me to his mother the first time, he said she told him, "What do you want with a girl like that for?" Implying or stating that I was a slut. But I had given him a ride after work. That's where we met, at American Marine Covering. And I was a secretary there. And I had on a skirt and a blouse and a bra and hose and high heels that were low, and I looked all respectable. And she said, "What do you want with a girl like that for?" Plus, it was beautiful. And she was a short, squat, piggy-looking thing. I don't know, maybe she never said it. Maybe he just told me she said it. But she didn't treat us very well. We were practically hungry. She had us over to take photos of Rich, of Boo Boo, when he was 3 weeks old. And she did a nice job. She set up a nice little set in a bedroom, I think, and took pictures of him. She put a little funny hat on him and stuff like that. And she had the most delicious smelling roast cooking. And we didn't linger or anything, but she didn't invite us to dinner. And both of us, I think, wanted to be invited to dinner because, like I said, we were eating Lucky Meats. That's 99 cents a pound. We had a pound for every dinner meal, 99 cents a pound, and we used to call it mammal meat because we weren't sure it was cow meat. It was just, we could afford it, so we bought it. And then she had the nerve to say to him, well, why didn't you guys stay to dinner? Well, lady, you didn't invite us. How's that for an answer? She visited us in Scranton, in Blakely, Pennsylvania, in the Scranton area once. She may have visited us twice when we lived there. She was a Leo, so she was the center of attention all the time. And she thought she was coquettish. But I understand she used to have a sexual relationship with my not real husband, Richard Henning Jr. So I guess her coquettishness, had an audience. Richard Henning Jr. and her husband Joe, who was a troll. He looked just like a troll. I'd never met anybody who looked so much like a troll. I think he was shorter than she was. And he was a bumblefucker and all that. I had up a magazine insert of Clinton, both sides of that insert, and it said the torch is passed, which meant he was going to be the next John F. Kennedy, and I had it taped up on the wall at the bottom of the stairs. When Lita Fey and Joe Engels visited us, Joe ripped it off the wall. Shit. It's like, hey, we live here, we pay the rent, we can have on the walls what we want. He ripped it off the wall, but it was still intact, so after they left, I put it back up, and for all I know, Clinton was a butthead. I don't know. I haven't been able to figure out the Clintons. They were investigated with a fine-tooth comb over whitewater. They were squeaky clean. Hillary was investigated for whatever that was. She was Secretary of State, so that would have been Obama, right? That would have been Obama. And she was investigated because there had been a terrorist bombing and some military people were killed, and it had been said that the State Department had been asked to please provide more security for that one area, that one building or something. So she was investigated, all of her State Department emails and all this kind of stuff were investigated. And I remember Troy Dowdy was the head of the 7th investigation. I think it was the 7th. I know it lasted like 8 hours. She was questioned for like 8 hours straight, 2 days in a row. Something like that. None of them came to anything. She hadn't done anything wrong. So those things speak well for the Clintons. And I read the book, I think it's called I, Bill Clinton, that Clinton wrote. It was a memoir, a presidential memoir. It was quite a thick book. And I was amazed. I can't tell you how many times he said he loved every minute of being president. Now, isn't that cool? And the things he got done, because he had talked about what they did in Arkansas, too, like, not little stuff. On a national scale, you would think it's little stuff. But, you know, for Arkansas, it was big stuff like sewage systems in rural areas and things that they badly needed. He worked on a lot of infrastructure as governor. And one of the things that got him not to be reelected, he was elected, not reelected, and then elected again, I think. And maybe for 2 more terms. I don't know how many terms he served as governor of Arkansas. And you know what the issue was? He wanted to raise the fee on car registration to help pay probably for the infrastructure. And people were so outraged about them, they didn't re-elect him. But as far as I know, they were clean. And when you've got Richard Mellon Scaife on your butt, you know, it does well to be clean because he won't stop. And Trey Dowdy didn't stop either. What a little pissant. Couldn't stand him. I watched most of Hillary's testimony, but even I got tired of it. I'm checking on the title of the Bill Clinton book. My life, Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton back to work. 2004 he left office in 2008. I guess it's not called I, Bill Clinton anymore. It's My Life, Bill Clinton. But I swear it was I, Bill Clinton. I want to put it in quotes. I read the thing. I got it at the library at Yale. Here. I read almost every page, which is amazing for me. "2004 sounds about right, but that's called My Life, Bill Clinton." But I swear it was I, Bill Clinton. Oh shit. I'll never find it. Bill Clinton, the black book jacket image. Book jacket. William Monroe, Bill Clinton, the maroon. Gilded Age president. Bill Clinton, I always wanted to be a writer. I never heard of that. John Kennedy had that. John Kennedy wanted to be a writer. So that torch is passed and could have been just your basic propaganda, but I swear the book was called I, Bill Clinton. And then he must have realized it sounded egotistical. So he must have changed it to My Life. I didn't notice the title was bad or anything. He was writing about himself. I, Bill Clinton. That's not inappropriate. Well, I'm gonna put the food away. Boo hoo hoo. Away food, away food, away food. BRB, I'll turn the light on too. I'm doing something that's good for me. My knees get attacked. Ouch. Like getting food and eating food, putting away food so it doesn't spoil. I get attacked for these things. So if Bill Clinton changed the title of his book because of me, then all I can do is repeat what Harry said. Hoffa isn't a big deal when they let you torture God and the Holy Spirit of God. You'd almost think that applies to John Kennedy too. Kennedy must not have been a big thing if they let you torture God and the Holy Spirit of God, because Harry was at least part of the magic bullet theory. They call it the single bullet theory. The United States government stands by that Oswald killed Kennedy with I don't know how many rifle shots, 3 from behind that caused like 6 wounds in 2 men. Sure. Harry would insult people's intelligence like that, I know that. I always thought Arlen Specter was responsible for the single bullet theory. And then I saw the U.S. News and World Report magazine when we lived in Blakely, Pennsylvania, in the Scranton area, which is where Biden is from. He's not a Delaware guy, he's a Scranton guy. That's where he was born. I always thought Arlen Specter was responsible for the magic bullet theory, or the single bullshit theory, whatever you want to call it, or the magic bullshit theory. Until I found a picture of Harry taking measurements with Arlen Specter. It's like, oh, magic bullshit is right up Harry's alley, you know? The world's most arrogant man who owns his children and rents them out, sexually and otherwise, after torturing them. Nice guy, Harry. And Bobby Darin called him Mac the Knife, which is appropriate. Okay, I'm not upload this.